Pundits say that videos should have a snappy beginning to get people's attention, so here, just snappy beginning. I'm a Canadian, which is a label that Justin Trudeau put on me. Canadians this and Canadians that. Last week I went to sleep in a messy bedroom, and I woke up this week in a dystopian nightmare. I used to be on YouTube. I was pushing for freedom and jail time for criminals. I got kicked off. And they took away my Facebook. And all my Google privileges anywhere. I can't do anything on Google because I'm a persona non grata, which is Latin for we don't like you. I'm not an expert in, but appended to the geopolitical work I do, I learned a lot about something called astrotheology, which might, on first hearing, seem something to do with the stars and religion. But it's actually about how the gravitic, magnetic, interplanetary, and interstellar electromagnetic spectrum waves interfere with the behavior of mankind. And there are certain things that are cyclic. There's a war every 80 years, which is the one that's coming up. We're just 80 years away from the last war. This goes back through history. Luckily, I ran across a video by the guy who knows this, and he went back and showed all the points. There's a pandemic every 200 years, and it lasts for 2 years, which makes me think that it's intentional. There's a Russian mathematician who wrote a book. It's the only book I was too chicken to read. I think his name is Fomenko. He applied all his mathematical tools to history, the events of history, and came up with the same scenario keeps repeating every 350 years. Same kind of wars, even the same faces on coins. And every 400 years, Saturn makes its closest approach to the Earth, and at that time there are bad climate events like earthquakes and monsoons, rains, freezing temperatures that just won't stop, thunderstorms. And because of the disaster on the surface of the planet, who's ever in charge of the country usually gets bounced because the people are saying, if you can't take care of this or handle this, maybe we need somebody else. So every 400 years there's a major change of regimes, and someone else has gone back and done the chronology and all of that. And then every 2,000 years, this 400-year cycle of Saturn aligns up with the other three large gas giants out there in the solar system, which are Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. And this is a huge event that causes what the Bible talks about as end times, with massive earthquakes, massive tsunamis, droughts, floods, plagues of locusts, plagues of mice, like we've already had in Australia. And this is usually not an extinction level event, but an end of civilization event. And kind of a reset, if you will. Now, all this stuff I just told you is on YouTube. These people wrote books, so it's in books, and where they got it was from research in their separate areas. And I ran across all of it and put these 4 points together. But I'm not the only one who's done this. I think the Illuminati, which means the enlightened ones, are a group of families, probably ancient royal families. And how they got royal was by knowing this stuff. That this is kept from the public, and through the centuries they babysit this stuff, and they use it, they work it. So this is using astrotheology to govern the planet by being able to predict disasters. And the confluence of all these events is going to be happening now. It's 2022. The 4 large planets coming together is going to be October 23rd, 2023. And at that time we can expect huge earthquakes, tsunamis, thunderstorms. Basically what would look like end times. And someone might be prepared to take advantage of that and say this is end times. Also at the same time, this probably, it looks like we're headed towards a world war again with Russia again. Basically now, it's in the next year, we have had the 2 years of plague. So next year we're going to have the gigantic planetary effects happening in the midst of a war at the tail end of a pandemic. And you might as well throw in the alien invasion scenario while we're at it. And this is the timing for the Great Reset. Those who know this, the illumined ones and the knowledgeable ones, the legacy, they're called the legacy families. It's only 7 generations for them between the 350, 400-year events, so this could be passed on. And this is the why of why this is happening now. It's they waited 2,000 years for this, and 2,000 years ago, somebody came to stop the BS at that time. So the psychological effect of the approach of Saturn is to enhance dominance and warlike behavior, which is where we're headed. The Mayan calendar was all about this. They knew about this, and that's one of the reasons why this managed collected all the copies they could, destroyed the rest, and sent it to the Vatican, because we, the sheep, are not allowed to know this. And I'll give you an example from history. A lot of the stoneworks have places where the sun at the summer or winter or spring solstice shines through a small hole exactly on the same day every year. The calendar makers or magicians know this, and one of them might, this also would go with eclipses. I've told you and told you and told you people to be good, and you refuse to do it. So I'm going to prove that God is on my side. So at dawn tomorrow, I'm going to stand here, and the sun will shine right on my face. The message from God. And it happens. And the priest says, I told you. You should be listening to me. Same with solar eclipses. If the eclipse is coming, you can say God is very angry, and God is going to turn the sun off. And in that few minutes when it's black, you can say, you guys need to start listening to me, and if you do, I will bring back the sun. And he does. Therefore, using astrotheology to stay in charge of the unillumined sheep. So this is the Great Reset, using the natural forces of the solar system. The Earth is not stable. Where is Atlantis? This is what happened to Atlantis. The political setup's being done for this. The elites are digging deep underground holes in which they hope to hide. Near this is people digging underground looking for ancient civilizations, or people drilling underground rail lines or pipelines have run into ancient, I mean like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 year old, 2 million year old underground hidey holes of the kind that are being made now, and some of them have machinery in them. And this didn't work for these people because the crust itself was burst open. So being underground is not enough. Tsunamis at that time could be 10,000 feet high, going 900 miles an hour. Which would explain why the ruins on top of the high mountains in South America were knocked over and were buried with mud, like a mudslide. How would that happen at 10,000 feet, unless the wave was 10,000 feet high, sweeping over a continent, wiping out every person, animal, knocking down all the buildings? The people in charge have always tried to capture the means of communication. In the last 2,000 years, it was advised not to teach the peasants how to read. The person who translated the Bible into English was burned at the stake for doing that. Romeo and Juliet is an ancient story from India, which Shakespeare got a hold of, somehow translated, and had a hit. Recently, telegraph, telephone were not too controlled, but were monitorable, and then the tapping your phone was made illegal. You needed a judge to say it was okay. Then we had radio, and you could say things on the radio, and that was sewn up when the law was changed within my lifetime to make it possible for someone to own an unlimited amount of radio stations. That was illegal before because you could control the communication. Now we have vast, three big companies seem to own all the radio stations. And the same with the TV stations. There's the big three or four, and the newspapers, huge change of newspapers. So the communication's been controlled. And that's very sad, because in the future, if there is a future, people will be saying, in this era when they had telephone and telegraph and television and the internet, and this could be used to educate the entire world and bring things up, it was all controlled and suppressed. Because the same kinds of people suppressive psychotics are afraid of other people, and they have a desperate need to control other people so they can feel safe. Peter Ouspensky, Russian philosopher and fourth way school teacher, said humans are the only animal where the psychotic part is in charge of the species. And this has been going on a long time, since Big Monkey, tribal chief, king. And the kings have stayed. They haven't gone anywhere. Now we have governments, parliaments, democracies, but the royal families are still there. And I think they're miffed that their legacy was taken from them. I was having some problems here locally, and I was talking to the most unlikely person about this, and she said it's the black nobility. I said, what do you mean? She said there's royal people here who keep their mouth shut, but they have their minions and their money, and that's who you're up against. So, for example, YouTube is worldwide, and anything to do with this worldwide conspiracy is being removed from YouTube. It's being removed from Facebook. It's being removed from TikTok and all the new stuff that the kids use. I can say that because I'm older. My VCR is still blinking. So is my stove. So I'm non-tech. It's been a very sad week for Canada because we found out we're living in a totalitarian dystopian nightmare, which we always were, but we didn't find that out. It turns out that many members of our parliament are members of the Council on Foreign Relations, which is a private group that tells the U.S. government what to do. And Council on Foreign Relations, I think International Money Fund as well is controlling some of the members of the Canadian Parliament. Now, it's well known that the U.S. people are compromised and bribed, and they make movies about it, but there's never been a movie about Canadian corruption. However, someone who is related to an insider in the U.S. Department of Justice, and I'm not going to name names, but it's a big name. Her brother wrote a book about 911 and what really happened there, and he moved to Canada, and he said it didn't take him long to figure out that Canada was the most corrupt jurisdiction on the world. And I know a minister who goes worldwide with his family. He teaches sand water traps to purify water by filtering it through sand, and she teaches natural childbirth in case there's no hospital. They came back here. They go out for 2 years and come back. He said Canada is the most corrupt place in the world. You just can't see it because it's hidden. But hidden no more. Everything the convoy did was in our Charter of Rights. And everything the government did was illegal, in violation of the law. So now we know where we stand. We stand in line. And we shut up. And I think this can be expected worldwide. I think this is what they've really been discussing at the G7 and G20 conferences, is the big reset and how it will be handled. And if Canada is the nicest place in the world and they treated us like this, what are they going to do in the lesser nice places? I don't think it takes long to figure out what will happen. It's the same as 1400, 1000, is men on horses with clubs beating the public for complaining about injustice. The Braveheart movie taught us how to deal with horses. I think it really means nothing's changed in the last 2,000 years. If you complain, armored people come on horses and run you over and club you and steal your children and kill your dogs. Welcome to the Roman world. They did that for 2,000 years, early and late Roman empires all around the Mediterranean, and to the east of that there's a continuous stream of empires where people come and have to have your stuff, kill everybody and eat all the chickens. And they are in control for their lifetime. They have sons. The sons of powerful people are always nut jobs, so they can't hold the empire together. Empire falls, somebody else comes in, takes over. Glorious empire for 70 years, passes on to his son, and the son is weak and a nut job, and that falls. It's been going on for a long time. And thirdly, these astrological forces, if you imagine the northern lights coming right down on the surface of the earth and playing across the surface of the earth, That's what it would look like, only they're not visible like the northern lights, but they do affect the biology, and especially the emotions of humans who don't like the pressure. This is like communications from the universe coming to the earth and leaving the earth through us, and we get antsy. And when Saturn is around, the penchant is blame your fellow man for the way you feel, and you'll feel better if you hit him over the head with a club or stab him or burn him. And that goes on for a few years because that's how long these slow planets move. For them, it's just like passing someone on the sidewalk and you feel a little uncomfortable, but this could go on for years. People slicing and dicing each other because it seems like the right thing to do. And the human race has been a victim of this for as long as we've been here. And now it's been known about in the hidden schools, the esoteric schools, yogi schools, Great White Brotherhood, all of that stuff that you hear about and people write books about. But it's never been the operating basis for mankind as a whole. It's been an operating basis for an elite group to control the rest of us. For example, the calendar makers, people who knew the earth was cyclic, could tell you when to plant, when to harvest, and it would be like magic. How do we know? How do we know when the winter's really over? It gives people power. People who came around with fire, people who came around with drugs, people who came around with liquor. Winemaking was a big wave of a way to control people. There's always the lazy people taking advantage of knowledge to bamboozle their fellows into giving them their good stuff. Definition of government is mind control. Gov is a belt, and mens is the Latin word for mind. So government is mind control. Pay your taxes and shut up. At this juncture, we have the technical means to educate the entire world into this, and we could set up a framework where everyone knows this, and we're preparing and waiting for the disasters to come, but that's not going to be allowed. First strike on this was Australia. Second one, New Zealand. Third one, Hong Kong. Fourth one, Canada. It's spreading like a pandemic. And people like me are not allowed to speak on the broad public platforms. And I'm down here by the river. This is a river of tears from every father who made efforts in past lifetimes to make a better and safer place for his family. All that effort just wiped away. And we just let it happen. 1% control the world. And what is that phrase? All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.